Hello, Bob. Thank you very much for joining us here on the USHBA Candidate Review. It's a pleasure to have you. For those that don't know you, could you tell a little bit about yourself and how you came to the hemp space?
Sure. Thanks, Aiden, for having me on this. Basically, I'm an architect in Dorset, Vermont. I've had my practice here for just about 31 years now. Originally from New Jersey, we moved up here to find a better life, and we found it. That's the bottom line. My practice has been based on really second homes and small commercial, mainly residential, but libraries, country clubs, things like that, that is probably about as far away from hemp as you could imagine over those 30 years. Basically, I'll get into that in a minute, but my background, grew up in New Jersey. My family has been in construction for over a century. We're from Switzerland originally, and my ancestors there were big time involved in the development of the transportation and tunnel system. And then we came here to the country in the late 1800s. My grandfather and his brother started a company called White Construction, which really was one of the founding companies of building concrete structures, I'm sorry, in New York City and the surrounds. And really they were the contractors for Yankee Stadium, Hayden Planetarium, Aqueduct Raceway, any big concrete structure back then was part of what White Construction was. And then my father took the company over after my grandfather retired, and his big plans of me taking over fizzled when I told him I was going to be an architect. But at the same time, he respected architects in many different ways, but also in New York City, as you can imagine, back in the 60s, 70s, 50s, and whatnot, there was a constant, battle between architects, contractors, the classic story. But he really taught me how to work with people, and on all sides of the table. So, taking my architectural practice, like I've done, it's really been an amazing journey, amazing clients, and it's education, learning everything every day.
Absolutely, yeah. No, it's very very important to have such a background, especially going into the building industry for hemp, to be able to apply knowledge that's not just hemp related, but knowledge that's generally construction related and generally architecturally related, because that's very important if we want to get hempcrete and other building materials kind of on the market and more mainstream. And so, how do you think that you can be a great board member?
Well, it comes down to experience, Aiden. Um, in my 31 years, with being an architect, it's more than just wearing a scarf and beret and saying, this house has to be a certain way or the certain color or certain materials. It's architecture is paperwork. Okay. Yes, there is design. Yes, it's the most fun I've ever had in my life doing what I do. But the paperwork, the zoning, the administration, working with people, that's the real basis of it. So those 30 years have really taught me how to organize. At the same time, it's understanding people. I sort of joke with clients that I'm also a marriage counselor. When I sit across the table from a husband and wife on a project, you get sometimes, disagreements, but you read body language and you try to develop how best to suit their needs to customize what they want to build, whether it's a small addition or a new home. The other part of the experience is I've been the president of the USHBA from the very beginning, and it's only been a year. So it's not like it's been a long time, but it's from the very beginning. And I've seen how our goals of what we set up with this wonderful crew of people has not only expanded, but it's also changed quite a bit. A lot of the goals that we thought would be relevant are totally unimportant. And other things come up that you realize that this is where the USHBA should go. And this is what's important in organizing an association that is really setting up an industry. You know, I've said this 100 times. You know, we are in this for the long run, and the goal of my tenure as president of the USHBA is to set up this infrastructure with my knowledge of how systems work in construction, and with my knowledge of how to deal with people to push them without pushing too hard on what is important. Construction is huge. It's everything, and we are needing to develop every aspect of it. So the process of our own infrastructure is so important, and that is where we're focusing now as we're coming into our second year of existence. I think it's important to say here is that developing this new industry, we're also developing a genre of construction, a new material. And the material of hemp-based materials is vast. It's not only hemp and hempcrete, it is hemp mixed and blended with all the other day materials. And the list is just endless, Aiden. And we're going step by step. We're working toward certifications. We're working toward education. We're working toward getting the infrastructure together. It's been the most amazing ride. It's been absolutely wonderful. The challenges of setting something from scratch, you wouldn't believe, but we're doing it. You know, it takes time, and patience is very important, as well as focusing the goals of people to really know where they're good at it and to put them to work. And we've got an incredible membership of people that came out of, I would have never believed, the processing, the farmers, the construction, interior designers, engineers, architects, you know, plumbers, electricians. You know, it's amazing. It really is.
Absolutely, and you made a really good point there that hempcrete isn't the only material. There's a bunch of other potential products out there that you can mix all the different things together and actually be able to build a house out of it, right? From the particle board to the hempcrete installation to potentially fiber-based installation, all the different things that are out there. And so with a kind of a future-looking focus, where do you envision the U.S. hemp construction market in, say, the next 5 years, and what do you think the roadmap looks like to get there?
I'm very, very positive on it. I think the momentum of what we've started is going to continue. I think overall the industry of hemp we're going through some ups and downs. I mean, there's no question. We're coming into the second harvest, legal harvest of hemp in the United States. And there's still so many laws and national issues of legalization and understanding the difference between cannabis and hemp, understanding the difference of the THC levels and defining them correctly. I mean, there's so many different ways to measure it. So it's all going to be on education still. I'm not pushing, okay? I'm moving in a way that it is a process of organizing thoughts and the infrastructure, not only of ourselves, but of the products and companies and the areas of construction we're moving into. And I think it's important to understand that, you know, it's going to be a blend. We are not competition. We are not competition with concrete or insulation. We are a material that can be blended into these existing products. So it's going to take time, and I'm not saying that we're going to be on the counters in 5 years of Home Depot or Lowe's or you know, the hempcrete store. There will be parts and pieces, but it has to be a process that is done correctly, legally, ethically, and the certifications have to be there. As an architect, I need to know what I'm specifying. I need to know that the insulation value of a 12-inch hempcrete wall is X. I need to know the fire rating of a 12-inch wall is, you know, probably about 10 days compared to hours. But, we need that certified, and it's not reinventing the wheel, Aiden. This has all been done in Europe and Asia at different levels, but the bottom line is life safety. And as an architect, that is my mantra, life safety. And we need to do it correctly, and we need to do it so that there's a confidence level of each project is taking hemp and hempcrete and hemp-based products to the next level.
Absolutely, yeah. You want to be able to sign off on it and not have to worry about any liabilities going forward, and worrying that potentially the house might fall down or burn or anything like that when you're building a material, especially for people that are coming into the industry that aren't necessarily super hemp focused and really knowledgeable about the hemp plant in general. So they're trying to figure out what new materials can we use, and so if they look at hempcrete and they don't really know anything about it and it's not certified and doesn't have all these backings behind it, then it's something that they're probably not going to choose. So that's really fascinating.
Yeah, and your point of the building not falling down or burning, that's an extreme. What I think about is how does a hempcrete wall interact with uh, a metal electrical box, or a metal flashing on the roof, or sheetrock that's touching it in a certain way, or cables and cords. There's an interaction. Materials expand and contract at different levels. Materials, like steel, if it gets wet, it'll rust. And are the studies 100% done on all these interactions with hemp and hempcrete and the hemp-based products? No, it's not. It's going to be a process, and I have full faith that it will work. And there are a lot of smart people working on this right now. Let me tell you, you wouldn't believe the science that's going into the development of including hemp into every aspect of our life. And I just want to put out there also is that, for the record, we're talking right now and we're still in the middle of this COVID virus, and our world has changed. Our lives has changed. Our interaction has changed. But the silver lining of this is that hemp is the answer to so many of these problems that humans have created, not only in global warming, but in the carbon issues of just the heat that construction projects create, of not only when they're building it, but when they're manufacturing it, the waste that comes from it. And I think it's so important to understand that we have to redefine everything. And I want to put it out there, and this is important, that my architectural journals, my correspondence with other architects and through the AIA, all of our rules, all of our design criteria are changing. How do you design a school now for COVID? How do you design outdoor spaces? How about elevators? How everything's going to change because of social distancing, because of the contagiousness of this virus, because of how people are interacting. So you're going to find not only the environment that we're living in developing in a different way, you're going to find that we have to convince through education that man cannot continue the way we're doing. And believe me, I've been doing this for 31 years. And like I said in the beginning, my portfolio would be hardly something you would expect a normal person working in the hemp industry would be. But I've been converted, Aiden. My son came up to me 5 years ago and said, "Hey, Dad, let's go look at bringing hempcrete into your practice." And I put it off, and I said, "No, I don't think that's relevant." But we went out to Colorado, and we ended up meeting up with Eric McKee, Kelly Thornton, Allie Cloyd of Left Hand Hemp, and we built the first permitted hempcrete structure in Denver. And this was just a small barn, a 16 by 20, a small post and beam barn. And this lady came up to me. We were part of a bus tour with NOCO. And this lady got off the bus and looked at it, and she came up to me and said, "This is historic, what you did here." And I said, "Oh, thank you very much." I never even considered it, but it was, and it converted everything in my life to thinking differently on architecture and design, but it also put an incredible um, opportunity out there. It's like there's a certain moment in time that comes along where you can make a difference. And that lady's comment is that point in time that made a difference to me, because it was historic. It was creating this new genre. It was creating a new way of thinking, not only for me, but the reaction of all these people. Um, and we have to convince people that architect and people, meaning everybody from architects, engineers to the common person on the street, that there is another way to build. Um, it'll take time. It'll take time, and I don't expect it to be overnight. But we we really do have in our hands the product that the green industry's been waiting for, and that's hemp. Period.
Absolutely, yeah. I'm fully on board with that, and I think, as you pointed out, one of the biggest factors is that hemp is going to augment industry versus replacing all these different materials. It's going to help to augment them to better make them more environmentally friendly, more health friendly, and just more sustainable going in the long term. So it was a pleasure to speak with you, Bob, and kind of listen a bit more about your background. I got to speak with your son, so that was a lot of fun. But I wish the best of luck to you for getting reelected to the USHBA board, and have yourself a wonderful evening.
Okay, well, great. And thanks, Aiden, for the opportunity to speak to you.